Thank you so much, everyone who's coming. I already see there's folks in the participants. Thank you again for coming. I'll just kick this off. My name is Joy. I'm the Public Programs Coordinator for the Japanese American National Museum, and we're really excited to be working along with Changing Tides and Shima Therapy and all of the other wonderful organizations represented here. A few notes. You can, we'll start with the logistical notes. You can send questions for the Q&A through the Q&A function of Zoom. You'll find that, I think, at the bottom of your screen. If you have any issues with that, you can chat either myself or Reine or Courtlyn with any questions. The Japanese American National Museum is closed at the moment to the public. And while it's been really hard for all of us, we're really trying to open up and have some JANM at home activities and programs and different sorts of ways to get involved. So you can find all of that on our website, which you can find at janm.org. We have a few upcoming programs. Tomorrow we have a talk with Clement Hanami about contested histories, the traveling exhibition. It'll be really exciting, and that'll be on YouTube at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Next week we also have a book talk on Tuesday around redress with John Tateichi. And we have tea and letter writing as well again next week. So that can all be found on our website. And please also follow us on social media and do all of those things to keep in touch. And thank you so much for supporting JANM. And we're still open for with membership and any sort of other ways that you can still support. So we're really grateful. And thank you to all the members who are here today. We really appreciate you and your support of the museum. I'm going to pass it off to Changing Tides. So I don't know if Courtlyn or Reine is going to be taking over next, but thank you so much to everyone for coming.
Yeah, so thank you, Joy and JANM, for helping us and partnering with us on this program. Thank you to all the participants and all the people who are watching. This is kind of what Changing Tides is all about, having open conversations. So just a little background on Changing Tides if you don't know. We're a program of Little Tokyo Service Center. We started in 2018 as an initiative that really just wanted to focus on addressing the mental health stigma in the Japanese and Asian American communities. And since then, we've kind of solidified our mission to normalize positive mental health in the community through events, outreach, education, and open conversations like these. So if you want to learn more about what we do specifically, you can visit our website at thechangingtides.org. And we'll also have the link up available after this, I believe. But yeah, and then if you go to our website, you'll find our blogs, and our most recent one has a little bit more information about what we're doing during this time. I know it can be a stressful time for a lot of people, so feel free to look at that and what we're doing. And then just a quick note about Little Tokyo Service Center. This program is just one of the many programs that we're doing as LTSC. From providing food and hot meals to the most vulnerable populations, to helping small businesses navigate these tricky times. LTSC is really trying to do all it can to help the community. We actually just launched a Better Together campaign. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can donate or support or volunteer, feel free to visit us at ltsc.org. And so getting kind of more into the program aspect, we want to introduce our wonderful panelists, but before we do, we just want to make sure that all of the participants are here and present, and we wanted to just give you a minute to reflect on the state of your mental, emotional, and physical wellness. These are all things that we're going to be talking about during the program, so maybe just take a minute to kind of check in where you're at, see kind of if anything changes during this talk. So feel free to write, draw, write it down. We'll give you about a few seconds to kind of do that. Okay, so if you're still thinking and checking in with yourself, that's fine. But I'm going to introduce Reine now, who is our Changing Tides coordinator, and she's going to introduce the panelists, and then we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Reine. I recently started working with Changing Tides as the outreach coordinator, and I'm just really excited for all the panelists that we have for you today. I think they all have such varied backgrounds and different perspectives, and I'm really excited to hear all the insights that they're going to share with you. So first up, I'll introduce our moderator and also a participant, Matthew Shima, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist. So Matthew is a psychotherapist, trauma and resiliency informed yoga teacher, meditation facilitator, and artist who's dedicated to serving individuals, couples, and families at his private practice, Shima Therapy, on the historic First Street North in Little Tokyo. And he uses a creative relational approach integrated with present moment awareness and somatic techniques to aid his clients in cultivating compassion, empowerment, joy, and connection. So we're grateful to have you moderating for us today, Matthew. Thank you. And next up, we have Cheryl Masukawa, who is a CrossFit Level 1 trainer and a personal trainer. So Cheryl's lifelong love of fitness and sports began at the youthful age of 8, peaking in 2016, where she made an appearance in the Masters 60-plus division of the CrossFit Games. So through the years, Cheryl discovered her love for helping people improve their health and fitness, acquiring CrossFit Level 1, USAW Level 1, and Silver Sneaker Instructor certifications. So with her recent retirement, Cheryl plans to continue coaching and personal training with a special focus on programs for seniors as well as those who are living an active lifestyle. And thank you, Cheryl. And
Thank you, Reine.
Next, we have Nola Rodriguez. So Nola is a spunky Filipina dedicated to developing and leading fun, interactive public health curriculums for individuals living all over LA County. And since graduating with her bachelor's degree in public health science, Nola has worked with several nonprofits that are passionate about nutrition, youth empowerment, and education. And in her spare time, you might find her exploring a third wave coffee shop, practicing calligraphy, or watching her favorite Spanish soap opera. So thank you, Nola, for joining us. Oh, and Nola is a project specialist for API Forward Movement. And finally, we have Lupe Limón Corrales, whose pronouns are she and they. Lupe is an educator, poet, organizer, and the youth services coordinator at Little Tokyo Service Center, where she promotes community wellness by working closely with youth and their families. And in addition to creating and distributing their own publications, Lupe has led art and sign making workshops for a wide variety of organizations across LA County. Lupe enjoys cooking, dancing, making things, and exploring Los Angeles. So now I'll go ahead and pass it off to Matthew and we can begin our discussion. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Reine, Courtlyn, Joy. Hello, everyone. So I'm Matthew. And so don't forget, you can use the chat box and the question and answer. You can just drop in questions throughout and we may intersperse them through or save them for the end. And so hello, Lupe, Nola, Cheryl. How are you doing?
Hi, fine, thank you.
Okay, good, thanks.
Good. So since we're focused on wellness, I thought I'd start with the question of just what's helping you get through right now, like you personally, what's helping you get through this crisis, through staying at home, through quarantine, through all the stress that's in the air right now?
Okay, I'll go first.
I'll go for it.
Oh. Okay, so I recently retired after 39 years working at American Honda. So I had my whole retirement life set. I was planning on doing my regular CrossFit classes, which was 1 day a week, but I also was working on putting into place a senior program. And we had just scheduled a trial class when this all hit. So that kind of blew up all my plans. And it was a real adjustment anyways, trying to figure out all my Medicare paperwork and all this other new lifestyle. And then in addition to that, losing access to the gym where I expected that I was going to be spending most of my time, either working out myself or training other people. And so it's been this adjustment where you feel like you don't know what you're going to do. You're lost. Then you're isolated because, you know, I'm used to being around a lot of other people at the gym. And so you sit yourself down, and then, you know, every day you wake up and you think, what are you going to do? So what I did is I set myself a schedule where I would wake up every morning, and I would do a little bit of paperwork. Then I'd take a shower, and then I'd do a workout. So I had something scheduled every day. Otherwise, I know that I would just sit around and the whole day would be gone, and then I'd have nothing accomplished. And that didn't make me feel good. So putting a schedule into place really, really helped me a lot. But it did take a little bit of an adjustment period.
Mm-hmm. Did you find anything helpful in getting that schedule set up?
I tend to be a very lazy person, so I basically just had to force myself to do it. So yeah, because I literally would just lay in bed for 2 hours before I would get up, and it didn't make me feel good. So what made me feel good was to actually have at least a morning plan. After I did my workout, then I would go for a walk. And so then the whole, probably up to 1 or 2 o'clock was taken care of. But then I run into problems later in the day because then I don't have anything scheduled. So definitely I feel like I have to be a little bit disciplined.
So the discipline and the schedule and keeping that plan, starting out the day with a plan.
Right.
Yeah. And Nola, Lupe, what's been helping you get through this time?
At first, the first week of the pandemic, I was really discouraged. I'm really extroverted. I love exploring Los Angeles too. And I felt like my energy was getting sucked out of myself. And so I think it's just, one, being compassionate. You're not going to get a schedule just waking up the next day. I definitely leveraged YouTube and like the 10-ish minute videos because that's what they do. They stay at home and create content, and I would look for motivational people who are willing to be raw. And I've been also using different apps on my phone, like sleeping apps and productivity apps. There's one called Flora where you can set a certain amount of time and you would build like this metaphorical tree. So that way I'm not like on Instagram all the time. And if you try to go on your phone, you will kill the tree. And so it's like, it's really fun. And you can actually plant trees all over the world in places that if you like pay a certain amount of money if you wanted to. So I planted a tree. Feel pretty good about myself.
So it leverages your guilt. Don't kill the tree.
Yes. And then book ending has been really helpful. So that's just a tool like, okay, I'm also in graduate school. So I have this amount of work for my nonprofit and this amount of work for school. And so I'll treat myself to calling one of my friends after and just kind of setting up little FaceTime dates with people from college, from people that I've really missed, family members. And just getting ready every day, I think, is really helpful. Like, you're worth it. And so it's okay if you want to put like a nice outfit on. It's okay if you want to do your hair a certain way. Because at least for me, staying in my pajamas and like sitting on my bed, it's just already defeating myself. And
very true.
Yeah, just having integrity too. Like, you're worth showing, like, you're respecting yourself. You're worth showing up for today. And you're blessed to get to have a whole nother day of life in the first place. So I think it's a lot of perspective. And yeah, because I'm an extrovert, just talking and being vulnerable with people about how you're really feeling. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you. How about you, Lupe? What's been helping you right now?
I think a lot of sort of what Nola and Cheryl shared has resonated with me as far as wanting to keep structure and really needing to keep gratitude and perspective on a daily basis. I tend to be pretty apocalyptic in general, and I think I grew up in a family with a lot of instability and have always sort of known that the life that I enjoy is like a blessing that not everybody in the world gets to enjoy. So I think I've always kind of planned for things to be able to change, and for there to be a need to adapt really quickly. You know, like even zooming out and thinking about what the world needs to look like in order to stay sustainable, like climate-wise. Again, not wanting to get too into like disaster and the end of the world, but I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind, and it's something that guides a lot of the way that I live and I make decisions. So I, you know, feel blessed that I have the opportunity to work from home, for example. I really enjoy the work that I do in my position at Little Tokyo Service Center, and I get to do it safely for the most part, doing a lot of my work from the safety of my home, which a lot of my family members have either lost work or they're working in settings that are super crowded and very dangerous. So for me, it's feeling really grateful to be able to be a rock in my family and in my community, getting to work with families directly on my day-to-day, and just knowing that I think we are very flexible and adaptable beings as humans, and I imagine that in the course of our lives we'll have to adapt to a lot of change, and so I just want that to be a practice that I continue. So this has really put it to the test. But yeah, just continuing to put things into perspective and think about what I do have and what I'm able to share with my community and with my family right now.
Yeah, thank you. And so since you're already apocalyptically oriented, and I'm curious though, because so what advice might you have for someone who is the person who lost their job, who does feel like the world really sucks right now? And so I'm sure there's a lot of people that listen to this that it's hard to feel like life is, you have many blessings right now. Maybe someone, a family member is sick, or maybe they're sick, or maybe they lost their job, or in especially like the entertainment industries or the service industries, food, and so, you know, so putting in structure or practicing gratitude. What advice might you have for someone who struggles with that right now, like who just wants to lay in bed?
Yeah. Well, I would say lay in bed, you know, for a day or two. I think it's okay. I personally am, you know, I need structure and I need to keep things going, but there's days where I don't want to do anything. And I think having some self-compassion is also important, and not expecting ourselves to be super productive and super, you know, elastic. Like I think there is going to be periods where it's tough. And as you mentioned, not everybody is in the situation that I'm in. And so things can feel a lot more dire. I think for me, what's also been in the back of my mind is that even if I didn't have the opportunity to work from home the way that I do, I would always have my community, and it's something that I've really poured my energy into for years. And I think, you know, once we went into shelter in place, I was really happy that my past self had chosen to put her energy towards these relationships that I know that I can count on now. So even with family and friends who aren't working right now, who are depressed, who can't get out of bed, we've been taking turns holding space for each other. Like I try to not be anxious at the same time as my best friend, so I can hold her down when she needs it, and she provides the same for me. Distributing food to my friends and family, sharing money when I can. I think, you know, if you have stable income right now, I know my costs have gone way down. I'm not leaving the house. I'm not buying lunches and stuff like that. Literally giving people money is such a powerful thing to do. And, you know, I had a friend's parents, they're undocumented, lost their job, aren't eligible for any type of financial relief through unemployment or through stimulus checks, and we're feeling like really the weight of all of this, you know? So they reached out last week and were like, we're gonna sell some tamales this weekend. If you wanted to buy a dozen, we need to make some money. And I was like, yeah, I'll post about it on Instagram. And within 3 hours, they were like, okay, take it down. We got too many orders. And
wow.
Joy came by and picked up a couple dozens from outside my house. And now they started an Instagram, and they've been getting so many orders that they're giving some dozens away for free to people who can't afford them because of like financial loss right now. And they were like, thanks so much. You're right. Like, community really did come through. And they said something in Spanish, like, when the sun shines, it shines on all of us. And you know, people have shown up for us, and now we want to pass that along. So I think if you don't have a community yet, it's not too late, you know, to start building that and to reach out to people and really create that support system. Because if you can't pay your rent, don't pay your rent, you know. And if you can't afford food, like, text your friend and maybe they can share something. So I think community is probably what keeps me going, and what I think we all have access to in one way or another.
Yeah, so maybe following that thread of community, what have you all seen in your community, in your, maybe in respect to your field? Like, what have you seen? I know I've been really inspired by what's happening in Little Tokyo, and like Little Tokyo Service Center is doing so many things. So what have you all been involved with or seen or been inspired by? Oh, we lost Nola. Okay. You all can still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start off. So at our gym, Torrance Training Lab, we have been doing Zoom workouts, and I noticed that there have been people that came on for the first time that you could just see, you know, slumped shoulders, and they're, you know, kind of definitely feeling isolated and a little bit depressed. And then we would do a workout together on Zoom, and then by the end of it, you know, everyone's chatting, everyone's just feeling so much better. And so even though you don't get the, you know, the actual one-on-one face-to-face, you can see each other, and it's the group of people that either you've been working out with or you didn't know because they worked out at a different time. And just getting to know our entire community within our gym has been really good. Our owners also started a Facebook group called Stay Healthy LA South Bay, and it provides home workouts regardless of what your fitness level is, stress relief tips, healthy recipes. Anybody can join, anybody can contribute to it, and that's also been a lot of fun too. People just, you know, getting on and being able to talk to other people. The other thing that I've been doing personally is every day I try to reach out to people that I may not have been in touch with, and people are grateful even though you haven't talked to them for months, even years sometimes. They're so happy to hear from you, you know, and just so my little community and my big community, it's been good just to be in touch with people, and you can visually see that lessening of the isolation with all of them.
Yeah, I know that the isolation and kind of this feeling of helplessness or kind of powerlessness has been one of the things that I've struggled with the most. Like, everything I had on my calendar got canceled, you know, a lot of appointments got canceled, events, trainings, a lot of things got canceled. And so I think one of the things that's really helped me is like doing some volunteer work, or finding, also connecting with my community. So like, I have a regular call with my colleagues. One group of us, we meet every Friday morning, and then I have some other groups that I connect with, and just talking with other people who know, like, who really get me, who get what I do and get what I face in my work, and who already know me personally. And I think I know. So you mentioned the Zoom calls, Cheryl, and for me, I know that even though every time I leave a Zoom call with my colleagues, that I always feel good. I always feel supported, and I always feel, oh, I'm so glad I did that. But leading up to it, I'm like, oh, not another Zoom call. Oh my God, I'm sick of staring at the computer, and I don't want to wake up early, and I just like zoomed out.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that's just something that's been coming up for me, of like, the thing that is good for me, it's helpful, but it's really hard to get over that hurdle of actually doing it. Yeah, so it's kind of both. It's the supportive community and also can be a challenge to overcome. But yeah, I've been really excited about like seeing the community feeding community program in Little Tokyo, and just a lot of all this cool stuff that's coming out online, YouTubers, and yeah, I think that's what's been helping me. Nola, do you have anything to add around community and things you've seen or ways you've participated in community?
Yeah, I could share just real fast. I know it has to be a balance because sometimes I can overschedule even the Zoom stuff, just out of fear of missing out a little bit. You know, I'm like, oh, people are doing like this fun coffee hour. These people are doing and then it, yeah, my tendency can be very people pleasing in a way, and we are human and our energy is finite, and so remembering that, I started meditating 30 minutes a day just to like help like organize, like, okay, how can I give? And also kind of similar to what you said, Matthew, like who are the people that are life-giving to me, who really understand my values, and what are just some practical ways, like even in the neighborhood, for my church, they encouraged us to be out on our front lawns twice a week, or to leave notes for first responders, or what were some other things that I really enjoyed, or coordinating walks with people like on the phone. I think that's been really helpful. Setting aside a part of your stimulus check for people is also a really great way. Yeah, there was a little list which maybe I could link out later, but it was, and also just understanding some triggers too. Like I personally have really limited my Instagram consumption because it does kind of produce some sense of loneliness in a way. So just, yeah, taking space to find, is this actually giving life to me or causing distress or frustration and loneliness a bit. So, oh, and also kind of shifting a have to a get to mindset. Like I get to wake up, I get to call my mom, I get to enjoy this healthy meal, I get to go on a walk. So I think that's helped me too.
Yeah. I also seen in the chat here, maybe I'll read out this from Jennifer. Said, to piggyback on what Cheryl said, I try to write down a couple of things, maybe even just one thing that I want to try to accomplish each day. I really love that. I love that it's one thing, because it can be so overwhelming. If I have to do my yoga, if I have to make a healthy meal, if I have to give back, if I have to volunteer, if I have to connect with, there's just too many, and then I have to work on top of that. So I love that it's the simplicity of the one thing. So I'm curious for you all, if you had like if you could accomplish one thing, and maybe if we keep to your field since you have a certain specialty, like if there's one thing that you could suggest to people, like, if you did this today, I would feel good about today. Like maybe this one workout, or.
Yeah, I do try to, for me personally, I try to do my one workout per day, and then I try to do one walk per day. And I know everybody can't get out and about, but even the first thing I do in the morning after getting up is I do go outside, and I just open the door and I look outside. The sky is so blue, and the weather's actually been really nice. So that just is really uplifting just to even start the day.
And with your workout, is there one piece of a workout that you think is pretty universal to a lot of people who maybe don't have CrossFit experience, but that just the general person listening, that if they could try this one thing out?
Right. Well, there's such a wide range of fitness and fitness ability, where your fitness level is. I mean, basically, if somebody's very inactive, just even standing up from the couch 10 times up and down, or if you've got stairs or a short step, just step up, step down, just anything, just, move your arms around, just something so you're moving. And then people who are a little bit more active, I'm telling you, on Instagram and Facebook, there are so many free programs right now that usually are fee-based programs. People are just posting right and left, and there's just, it's almost overwhelming. There's so much. If you're a senior, I know Jennifer, who commented in the chat, had found a great instructor for chair dancing for seniors, and we did one at the Little Tokyo Towers last Thursday, and they loved it. And it just seated, and they're just moving. They were bopping, they were smiling. It was just such a great experience. So it doesn't matter what your level is. I mean, there's something for everybody. At our gym, I was helping someone who was coming back from an injury. So somebody who's very limited. We have a grandma who started working with us, and she didn't have really good movement. She had a lot of issues, but 6 months into the program, she went back to her doctor, and all her markers were fantastic. So, it's any kind of movement. You don't have to come in and think, gosh, I have to lift heavy weights. You can just move your limbs, stand up, sit down, take a little walk, and everything helps, and you're just going to feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah, I've been, I go to the recycle, like the trash can a lot. Like, I've been using that as my walk. So I purposely don't keep a recycle can in my house. So that means every time I wash something or every time I use up something, I have to walk it outside. It's just like another excuse to, like, one, it keeps my kitchen clean. Two, it's just another excuse to walk outside, put it in, come back. So I try to build in little things like that so I don't have to think about it. It's like almost like automating my habits. Because I don't want people, especially people who are inactive, I don't want them to feel like, I have to exercise, that I have to do this. If it's something they don't want to do, just move. Like I said, just stand up and sit down during a commercial if you're watching TV, or if you're sitting in front of the computer all day long, set an alarm, stand up, sit down, move your legs around, move your arms around, just get a little bit of movement. Sorry, I'm also checking out the chats and everything too. So for anyone watching, please remember that you can also write your question in the Q&A or a comment in the chat, and we'll try to incorporate that into our conversation. So
real fast, Matthew, I was going to say the one thing that I have a lot of fun doing is planning my meals for the next day. Like for my nonprofit that I get to be a part of, API Forward Movement, we source fresh produce from local Asian American farmers. And so once a week I get like a small bag of fresh produce, and so I like to write down breakfast like this, or lunch this, and then dinner this, and I get to go to sleep looking forward to the foods I get to make the next day, which is kind of fun. And I'll even put emojis on my phone, like, like, I don't know, it's just really quirky, but I really enjoy doing that. And if there are any foods that look like they're going bad, looking up recipes to conserve them. Like tomatoes looked a little bruised yesterday in my fridge, so I got to roast them last night, and they were like delicious. So yeah, I like to write down my food once a day.
So do you have any tips for meal planning right now? Any tips for people who want to try that out?
Yeah, every time this works out for mostly lunch and dinner, but as I'm making lunch, I'll like repeat that same meal twice. So that way I have it for like 2 future days, or for dinner later, or at dinner time, I'm going to make 2 more meals of that same meal, and then you can switch them around. I do a lot of roasting in the oven because you can like leave it. Let's see. Yeah. So I don't know if it just takes practice, and don't beat yourself up if you don't get it right the first time. I've messed up plenty of recipes before, and keep it relatively simple. Like, find the 3 main meals you want to make that week, because my eyes are really big, so don't try to do too much variety in the first week. Like, I'm gonna have 7 different cuisines. Like, maybe like sticking to like 3 solid meals that you can envision and enjoy and mix around for the 3 next days. So that helps a lot. I also use big Ziploc bags to conserve things with my salads or vegetables, and just do a lot of chopping at the same time too. Because I have 3 roommates, and so we share a fridge, and I'm always the one who takes up a bunch of like the produce things at the bottom. So yeah, look at flexible storage holders, and think about vegetables that last a long time, considering you can't go out as often. Like, I do a lot of red cabbage that lasts a really long time. There's a lot of fresh, like fresh frozen like vegetables you could use and let defrost overnight, or same with fruit. Yeah, I have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, those are great, because that's been one hard thing for me is around, I used to go to the store very frequently, a few times a week, and I just always buy small quantities of fresh things. And now, you know, to try to avoid trips to the store, we're supposed to, you know, try to minimize that. And so I have trouble with keeping fresh foods in my diet without them going bad too quickly, or something like that.
Yeah, and try to pick things that don't need to be refrigerated, like potatoes, carrots, onions. I've been putting those in my pantry, and then even certain fruits or vegetables, like I would buy them kind of not ripe yet, like avocados, like kind of hard and green, and then after a while, then I can transfer it to the fridge and like let them ripen up. So yeah, I look for those who have a longer shelf life and don't need to be, they're not as sensitive to temperature, I guess.
Got it.
Can I add too?
Yeah.
As far as the meal planning, I know I live with a roommate, and before we were starting to work from home, because her and I are both, we would do our groceries separate and our meals separate. Like, our schedules were just pretty different, so we didn't really usually align as far as our meals go. So when we started being home more, we checked in about buying things together, coordinating our grocery trips to try to minimize those. When I'm anxious, I like to cook like really big meals, and then I can't finish the food because I'm like, I can't eat that 4 times in a row. So that way, like, I cook for her, and then when she cooks, she shares with me. And I also saw that someone in the chat was saying that they've been having a difficult situation with their roommate, and that it's difficult to be stuck with someone that they might not have chosen to quarantine with. And I think just thinking about, with my roommate, we've just been having to do a lot more communication and having to have meetings with like agendas and like, you know, icebreakers and everything, because it just feels like we have to be a lot more intentional about like our relationship right now, since we see each other every day. We're both taking Zoom calls in the same living room. We're both cooking, and for the most part, it's been such a supportive environment. And there's been a lot of different resources floating around online about pod mapping, for example, and how to kind of build a network of support, how to, sorry,
could you say, for people who don't know what pod mapping is, could you give a quick definition of that?
Yeah, I guess pod mapping comes from a transformative justice framework of wanting to rely on community members instead of like institutions and police for conflict resolution. So it's about identifying the people close to you that you can count on, and that can be kind of the people that hold you accountable to different processes. I'm not an expert, but I think that's what I gather about it. But if you want to add anything, Matthew, you're welcome to.
No,
so I know I found a couple of worksheets online that were about, yeah, how to talk to someone more in depth about your pod. And it felt a little bit like formal and overdone at the beginning, but it was asking us like, what are our boundaries around like physical items? Like what things are we willing to share and what things are we not willing to share? And I was like, Sam, I love you, but you can never eat my hot Cheetos. Like my hot Cheetos are just for me. And I'm like weird about it. Like I'm down to share anything other than that. And so it was really helpful to talk about like, this is what it looks like when I'm anxious. This is what it looks like when I don't want to talk. These are the boundaries that I have. And so I think, yeah, just to kind of combine those ideas of meal prepping and coordinating with the people you live with, just, you know, being willing to be more intentional about how you share that space together.
And something that, to kind of piggyback on that, something that I use with couples that I work with is kind of finding a shortcut to like finding your word for, say, like if I need time alone, like, or like we need to kind of pause this conversation because I'm getting too activated. This is like, I'm getting out of my resiliency. I need to break from this. So instead of trying to, in the middle of when you're feeling already kind of stressed and overwhelmed, of finding like a code word or just like a pause, or I need I time, like me time, or like to finding a single sort of code word that you can just say, like when I say like alone, this just means like I need to have my alone time, and I'm going to be able to come back to this conversation. That you can find maybe yeah, shortcuts so that in those moments when you're already getting agitated or you're trying to figure out a conflict, that you don't have to go through the whole explanation of, right now I need some time alone and I need some space before I can come back to this conversation. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to this, since we got a question from Instagram. It's a bit of a shift here, but the question is, do you think staying indoors is impacting our vitamin D intake? Does anyone have any information on nutrition and vitamins? Any thoughts around getting outside?
Yeah, it's hard because right now the weather has been so like hit or miss. There's times where I'm like, oh, the sun's definitely going to be out at this time, and it doesn't really peak out until 5 o'clock. Or there's times where you walk outside and it's 8:30 a.m. and it's like blazing hot already. So yeah, that's something that I've just been trying to use the internet for, like when is sundown, when is sunrise, and like just planning ahead and like what the weather's going to be like, and bringing my phone and doing a phone call while I take a small walk outside, or when my eyes are getting strained being on my laptop a little bit, it's like, okay, like let me just recenter 10 minutes. But yeah, a lot of it has to do with the sun and less about your diet. I used to be a little bit paranoid about that. I was like, I just need to drink a lot of milk, like, and then I'll have all this vitamin D. There's a lot of different vegetables that are rich in vitamin D, but I personally don't know them off the top of my head. So a little research I have to do on my end.
And Cheryl, I saw you answered one of the questions in the chat. Did you want to say anything about that? A bit more explanation?
Sure. So the question was, is it better to do little 5-minute breakouts during the day workouts, or if it's better to do just one 30-minute workout at the end of the day? And it's really personal preference, especially if you're still working from home. A lot of it's going to depend on what your work schedule is. But I said, regardless of what Jesse chooses, it's good to get those 5-minute breakouts throughout the day. It's only going to just kind of rejuvenate everything, right? It's going to reset your brain, your focus on something, you know, to get up and get away. It's just really going to refresh you. As far as working out, now that's an interesting thing because I'm used to working out at the end of the day, but just because this whole adjustment in the schedule, I found that actually getting up and doing the workout to start the day, then it just makes me feel so good. I feel very accomplished. So just from a mental standpoint, that morning workout helps me, but everybody's different. So I definitely recommend. Go ahead.
I find that, I'm not sure if it's just me, but there's certain times of the day that lend themselves to certain activities. Like for me, if I want to do deeper focus work or a workout, those I tend to do best if it's cool in the morning. Like if it's noon and it's blazing out, I don't want to do workout at all. I don't want to do anything. And it's also the time I think. My thinking is the most foggy. And I can't concentrate very well. But like something, if I need to concentrate or focus early in the morning, or a workout or doing yoga, I find it in the morning or when it's cooler again in the evening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting with this whole work from home time, just trying to figure out what your body really likes. And as you said, trying to figure out what works best at the best times of the day. And it could be different from what it was before.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the question and answer. We have one, a question. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions for how to deal with managers at work who are micromanaging how you work from home? For instance, if they ask you to list out all activities that you have done and plan to do on a daily basis, it's adding to the stress and I don't know how to healthily deal with it. First of all, yeah, that would stress me out too. That's what I have to say. Do you all have any tips for how you've been able to work from home and manage or deal with your managers or bosses, if you have one?
I would hate that. I would be so stressed out about it. I know as somebody who, reports to someone and supervises someone else, I have to sort of report what I'm working on a weekly basis, and I have to, provide supervision to what somebody else is working on. I wonder if it might be possible to try to negotiate for that to be more of like a weekly thing, and to let them know that you could create like a weekly work plan with some of the assignments that you'll be working on, and just let them know that you're dealing with a lot, you're doing these assignments, but that it's taking a lot out of each individual day to have to write them down. And so that you'd appreciate maybe more of the flexibility of being able to look at it as a weekly thing rather than a daily thing.
Yeah. And I might suggest, I'm trying to think how I might deal with this, that I find that being proactive tends to work better. Rather than having to say no to something, to be like, here's what I'm doing. So like maybe on Friday saying, sending an email, can we schedule a time on Monday morning that I can check in and let you know my plan for the week? I'd love to let you know what I'm doing, and then Friday, here's all the things that I did. I'm excited to work on this next week. So that I think that if someone is not, they're more likely to question you if they are worried about your work. I don't know, maybe some people are just controlling, but I find that if you don't give them a reason to have to go after you and find out the things, that it might feel more empowering to come from you and setting the expectation of, hey, I'd like to check in with you at the end of each day or at the beginning of the day, and I'll let you know what my plan is. So where you have some sort of control or agency on how you're going to do it. So I don't know.
I still empathize though.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I would love for any managers watching, be like nice to your employees. We're all stressing out.
Okay. Let's see another question here. Oh, no. All right. Maybe we should switch gears a little bit to family, since there's probably a lot of families at home. Some are probably loving it, it's more time with kids. I know a lot of people that I've talked to, some people are loving it, like more time at home, more time with the kids, more time to play. And yet I'm sure there's a lot of people who are driving each other nuts. So here's a question. How can parents best support their children as they adjust to online school and less social interaction with their peers?
I know one of my good friends who, with her little girl at home, she's really had to sit down and write out a schedule with her. And then they have an incentive at the end of the day, like, okay, like we're gonna, once we finish school, we get to watch this episode together, we get to play this board game together. And she's like, oh, really? Like, and so that's kind of helped her stay focused a little bit more. And I know one of my good friends who also has 2 kids, and she teaches at a university. That's been quite a struggle. So just establishing firm boundaries in the house, like this is my office, like you're going to school from this time to this time, and on Fridays, like we'll do Zoom play dates with your friends. And so I think that's been helpful for the ones with kiddos. I just like different, and just phoning in on some friends and hearing maybe their ideas, because everybody's trying to get creative here because it is a need. And so seeing if that works, and if it doesn't work, don't beat yourself up for it. Like we're all very diverse, and
Yeah, what's coming to mind as we're talking about all these different topics is the fact that, I guess coming back to what I think all of you mentioned in the beginning, is around compassion and self-compassion. Like none of us have done this before, right? None of us have been through this before, as far as I know. You know, all of a sudden having to stay at home, having to mass unemployment, people getting sick, having to deal with the stress in the news, stress in our environment, being stuck at home. So I think I just kind of want to re-emphasize that even any suggestions that I'm making or we're all making, it also has to be, I think it's important the quality that we bring to it, because it can easily turn into another should. Like, oh, now I have to make a structure, or now I should try to be with my kids in this way, or now I should meal prep in this way, or now I should do my workout in the morning. That I think the quality that we bring to any of these ideas or any of these suggestions is really important. And kind of the thing that's really helped me is, what's the next thing? Like I messed up yesterday, I messed up all morning. I said I was gonna do yoga first thing, I didn't. Okay, what now? What's the next thing right now? Okay, let me wash this cup, because I know I need to do that and I can do that. So let me wash my cup. Okay, now that it's washed, let me dry it. Okay, let me put it away. Like kind of really breaking everything down to much more simpler terms. That's been helpful for me.
I can't speak to the parenting aspect of it, but I know with the youth that I work with, and wanting to be supportive of them as they are trying to acclimate to distance learning and being away from their family and friends. I've just been hearing a lot of educators or reading a lot of educators online being like, why don't we just ask what they want to learn and not stick so strictly to a curriculum right now. So I know with some of the families that I work with, they really want to focus on academics because due to life circumstance or the schools that they go to or lack of access to resources, they're behind. And I know one of my students' grandparents was like, we can't have him go into second grade not knowing the letters of the alphabet. Like, he's been going through a lot and it's really important for him to learn them. And he's been super receptive to online tutoring and wanting to focus on letters of the alphabet and doing reading exercises and stuff, and he seems to be responding to that really well. But then we have some other students who don't really want to focus on homework during the times that myself or our other tutors check in, and they either just want to talk or they want to learn more about their creative interest. And so, you know, we all, I think, want the youth in our lives to continue learning and to continue growing during this time. But it is, I mean, I'm learning so much every hour, I feel. And so I think shifting away from, that want for control and that desire to really like define what it should look like is important, and checking in with the young people in our lives to ask them what they need, what they want to learn, what would make them feel better on maybe a daily basis is one of like the most low pressure and effective things that we could do. And again, so much empathy for the parents. I know my friends who are parents are like freaking out, and I can't even offer to babysit. So I know there's a lot to deal with right now.
For the teachers too, they're really going through a lot. I really admire them.
Cheryl, do you have any suggestions on how to keep kids active right now? I don't know if you work with kids at all, but do you have any suggestions for exercises with kids and parents, or?
I don't have my son is grown and gone. I know that in our Zoom workouts, there's one dad that always has, one dad and then one mom that always has their kids also doing the workouts, and they love it, right? They get to be kind of with the adults, and they do a great job. They do as much as they can do. Actually, some of them are probably pretty, you know, in better shape than we are, but it's fun for me to see the kids doing the workouts. And they just look at it like they're having a good time. So they just jump on and do the workouts with us.
Have you come up with any creative ideas? So when people are doing their Zoom workouts and maybe they don't have any exercise equipment at home, have you found anything that people can use?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I have.
Just got it right there.
Yeah. So water bottles. You can just use water bottles. Curl them, you can press them, you can row with them. Not everybody has these, but these are great, super cheap. Just these exercise bands, just to do all different exercises. You can do upper body exercises, you can do leg exercises, and then just so you can do a little bit of lifting. I just have a backpack and I put a book in here, and you can just pick it up, put it down. You can press it overhead. I mean, there's just anything you can do. You know, body weight's fine. One of the things that I know that I've been focusing on myself is there's a tendency when you use a lot of weight that a lot of times your form isn't the greatest. So it's been nice to just be able to focus on the form and not worry so much about, oh, I have to do this amount of weight or whatever. But definitely if you just look around your house, you can use canned goods, you can use them, you know, as weights, and it's just enough weight to really give you a good workout.
And with something like the bands and stuff, how do people know, how can we know which ones to get, or are there different kinds, or the different weights? Or?
There are, yeah. So there's a company called TheraBand, and Jennifer, who's also on this, and I found these TheraBands on Amazon, and it just comes on a roll, and we're actually going to use them tomorrow afternoon with the seniors at the Little Tokyo Towers. And so this is a good one. So this yellow band, they'll give you poundage, which is kind of irrelevant if you don't know what you're doing as far as, you know, using these kinds of bands, but this one's really good for beginners. And not only that, I mean, even people who are intermediate or advanced can use these, because you just adjust where you put your hands, right? So if you're a beginner, you might move them out further. If you need a little bit more tension, then you just move them in. So actually, you know, something starting with this band works really well. And you can also contact me. I'm more than happy to help you.
Okay. How can they get in touch with you?
Let's see, Joy, can we post contact information later? How does?
Okay. Yeah, so maybe we'll make sure to get that in the notes or something to send out afterwards.
More than happy to.
Okay, here's one about mental health. Do you have any short mindfulness activities that we can do during a break while working from home? So maybe I can speak to this one. Maybe I can invite everyone right now. We can take a little resiliency pause. So I like to just take pauses anytime I remember. And even right now, I might invite you all who are here with me and people who are watching to just notice the way that your body is making contact with whatever is supporting it. So whether you're sitting in a chair, on the floor, if you're standing or walking, just notice that the places where your body is making contact. So like right now, I can feel my legs on the chair, my feet on the floor. Also, my elbows are being supported by the armrests of my chair. So as I bring my attention to that, notice what happens on the inside. So like right now, as I paid attention to the places that my feet and my legs and arms are making contact, I had a deeper breath. So just by bringing your attention here to the present moment of, and the most like really tangible thing is just where your body's making contact. That's immediately here and now. And naturally, my nervous system sort of responded with an exhale. So that without even needing to do a deep breathing, my body naturally kind of took it. So I might even right now, again, invite you to just notice where your body's making contact, and then what you notice on the inside, if anything. Okay, so that took, I don't know how long that was, less than a minute, probably. A little longer maybe since I was explaining it, but mindfulness practice or a meditation practice doesn't have to be formalized in like a sitting lotus position on the meditation cushion on my yoga mat with the incense burning and the candle burning. That it can just be a moment of remembering, where am I? Oh yeah, I see my walls, I see my lamp, I see my curtains, see my mug. So just kind of orienting to your surroundings in the present moment is one mindfulness practice. Do you all have anything to add to mindfulness practices or any quick exercises that can be interspersed throughout the day, throughout a work day?
I think relating to nutrition, I think that was a follow-up question. It's really easy at home, like with your abundance of snacks and like fridge food, you're like, yeah, like it's there and I'm just gonna go, and it's stressful, and myself included, I'm not exempt from that struggle just to mindlessly eat. But something I did when I taught nutrition classes in Koreatown with preschools is like mindful eating, like sitting down, notice the colors on your plate, smell, like literally use all your five senses, because and what type of sounds does it make when you crunch on it, or what type of feeling do you feel inside when you look at it? And even just with snacks, you don't always have to make it about physical nutrition. Like there are other things that nourish you, like my before bed snack is reading 2 pages of my favorite book, or that's been really helpful, or my afternoon snack is going to be walking and talking to my friend, and my morning snack is, or like my lunchtime snack after lunch is, I'm going to watch 15 minutes of my favorite Amazon Prime episode, and then I'll get to finish it once I'm finished with all my work stuff. So just kind of like redefining little nourishing things have been super helpful, like just for my mind, just to think abundantly versus I'm freaking out and I just need some instant form of gratification because believe me, it's really easy for me to get into that. And just fun recipes for those with kids. It's like smoothies at the end of the week once your fruit's kind of getting a little bit ripe. Like automatically freezing those fruits is kind of fun too. And making like vegetable plate faces are kind of fun. I did that with some kiddos in Chinatown. So yeah, have fun with your food.
Fun. Lupe, did you want to add anything around the idea of snack or interspersing exercises or activities with kids?
No, I think those all sound great. I know one of the things that we're doing, I guess I do have something to add. One of the things that we're doing at Little Tokyo Service Center is a lot of our families have been asking for more art supplies or just different materials to, you know, broaden the things that they can do with their youth. So we are working to distribute different like prompts and activities that people can do from home. And so Britt Ko, who is an artist that we work with Sustainable Little Tokyo, came up with a packet of prompts that are for youth of all ages. And they were really sweet. I think I'll ask them if maybe we can include that in the materials that we share out. But one of them was about going on Google Maps and exploring a place that you've never been to, or, you know, drawing like every meal that you ate that day. And they were all just very like sweet and thoughtful and creative and accessible to people that are just at home. So yeah, I'll ask if I can share those. It's a low contact way to share art with one another.
While we're on the topic of resources, do you know of any other programs for either those art activities or art supplies or meals or groceries? Do you all know any resources for people that are available right now?
We're distributing art supplies and groceries and other things?
Yeah, just all the different things that are available.
Yeah. There's so many.
Yeah, I guess that's a big question. You know, one I'll mention real quick is I thought something was kind of cool is there's a website that someone put together for therapists that for anyone looking for mental health services. I think it's made specifically for frontline people right now. So people working in grocery stores or in healthcare, that they are offering pro bono or discounted rates for therapy. So I'll try to get that link for you all too.
Well, yeah, obviously at Little Tokyo Service Center, it sounds like some of you all as panelists are familiar with the work, but I know that we have a lot of different programs going on for the residents of our buildings and the residents of Little Tokyo. And, you know, if anybody was interested in learning about efforts that are more local to their neighborhoods, I'd be happy to be someone that they can reach out to, since I've been compiling a lot of resources that are about food distribution and yeah, just how to access resources throughout LA. And I would encourage people to start their own in their neighborhoods too, if there's nothing there already.
So I want to remind anyone who's listening right now that we have some time for a question and answer. So feel free to drop in some questions or comments right now, anything that's coming up for you as we talk about these various areas of wellness, mental health, nutrition, families. So you can go ahead and use the question and answer box down below. And I'm a little unsure where to go next, to be honest. So is anything standing out for you so far in our conversation that is really just you want to make sure to say today? Any thoughts that are bubbling up or themes that you're thinking about?
There's a question from Joy on the chat.
Oh,
do you mind
okay.
if I answer that?
Go for it. I didn't see that one. Go for it.
It says, can you talk more about creating networks of support in your community? So I know I was talking to Joy about this a couple of days ago, but we were talking about how at Little Tokyo Service Center, at least in my department, the work that we're doing is work that I'm really proud of and that I feel really blessed to get to support. Really directly giving financial assistance, food pantry items, and helping our residents navigate all of this in like really physical and material ways. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is really replicate a lot of that, a lot of what LTSC is doing and what other organizations are doing in my own apartment building, which is a little bit different because I don't have any authority here. You know, like at LTSC, there's like years and years of a relationship and trust. And in the apartment building where I live, I just moved here in January. So I know my neighbors, but we don't have a deep relationship. So what I did, I think that first weekend when everything was sold out and nobody could get toilet paper and things still weren't closed and everyone was freaking out, was I bought like a lot of rice and beans, and I wrote letters to all of my neighbors and left dried rice and dried beans at their door with a little note in English and Spanish, just giving my phone number and saying that I'm open to, you know, supporting and sharing with whatever we need. So, you know, that was like a small seed that I planted. And, you know, now as we walk around our apartment complex, we say hi to each other more. And I've had one of my neighbors offer food to me, and I'm just trying to, you know, kind of build relationships with them to be able to get to the place where maybe we could have a food pantry here the way that we have a food pantry in our buildings at LTSC. And maybe we can have a group chat here on WhatsApp the way that we have one with our residents at LTSC. And so obviously it's different when you're just a person and you're not in an organization where it's your role to provide these services. But I've just been trying to think a lot about how we can help where we're at. Because I know we've received so much overwhelming support and people wanting to donate and volunteer to support our residents in Little Tokyo, which I totally appreciate and encourage you to do. And I would also say that you can, you know, start to do some of that work on your own block or in your own apartment building, or at least plant the seeds for it.
Yeah, so here's another question. What are some creative yet nutritious snack ideas since many children are taking classes at home?
With frozen bananas, like if you blend it the next day, it's almost like ice cream, which is kind of fun. I've done that. Or like with bananas, we would slather like their favorite nut butter on like a whole wheat tortilla and then put a banana on the inside and then wrap it and then chop it. And it's almost like banana sushi, like peanut butter dessert type thing. It's really cute. I've already mentioned smoothies. Oh, like doing healthy popcorn at home is also kind of fun. You can add your own seasonings. I've known people who made it spicy with like chili powder, or I mean that might be a little bit too hot for some youngsters, but I've also met youngsters who've surprised me and can beat me on the spice level too. So like ants on a log, which is peanut butter on celery. Yeah, those are just some fun ones I like to do. And just, I don't know, just like having them in the kitchen while you prep stuff also just breeds this culture that it's normal, and just inviting them as you're prepping things is also helpful. I know for me, like that really led me to be more passionate about wanting to teach nutrition in the first place, is learning about my culture and asking family members what their favorite cuisines are.
And here's another question. Do you have any tips for staying connected with and taking care of loved ones who may be older or more vulnerable during this time?
My mother is at Sakura Gardens in Boyle Heights, and of course they're on 100% lockdown. So my brother set up a camera inside her room through a company called Wyze, W-Y-Z-E. So the camera will pan 180 degrees, so we can see her bed. We can also see when they bring in meals to them 3 times a day now. So we can see when they bring in the meals, and then we can actually watch her eat her meals, so we can monitor how much she's eating.
Wow.
And then if she sometimes she'll close that container a little too soon, so one of us will call her on the phone and say, "Hey, Mom, can you take 1 or 2 more bites, or can you drink a little bit more water?" So in that way we can monitor her food. But it's not the greatest connection, but it definitely works, and it's been really great to help make sure that she's eating enough food. So.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that there was such a thing.
Yeah, W-Y-Z-E. It's great. Yeah.
I have a comment from Jennifer. As a kindergarten teacher, a few fun websites that I use with my students are gonoodle.com, which is dancing, singing, yoga, relaxation techniques. And there are a few great directed drawing lessons on YouTube. One is by Mo Willems. Just recently, I came across a great program called Playworks. There are PE teachers that are posting at-home activities online every day. Playworks can be found on Facebook. And then Margaret says, another great way to stay connected with seniors is simply calling them and sending them notes. Yeah. Do you all find that you're spending, that you are making time to go out of the way to call people that you haven't, or calling seniors, or calling people in your family that you haven't connected with?
My hands were like getting sore from being on my phone all the time. I was making so many phone calls and sending so many messages. But yeah, I think I definitely have a rotation of people that I'm checking in on throughout the week. And then I feel like for everybody outside of that rotation, like my capacity is sometimes a little bit more limited. And so I've been, just, haven't been able to see my mom in a couple of months, which is really tough. So we talk every day, and there's definitely people in my personal life I'm checking in on often. And then there's families that I work with through my role that I check in with at least every couple of weeks, who have asked for that too.
Cool. I see some more stuff coming through sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really like to do snail mail. Like, I just started doing it, but I started making like honey greeting cards that I've been wanting to do for like the past year, that I've pinned on my Pinterest board. And so I busted out my paint and like started putting stamps and sending the letter. And I don't know, that's just been kind of fun, just to mission to the post office and throw it in. And I don't know if they received them yet, but that's been kind of fun.
And I know too, there's a lot of different programs, it sounds like, for people wanting to write to elders or just loved ones in general. I know my friend and colleague Erica hooked me up with a program that allows me to write a letter every week to a youth in detention center. So I also know that there's a few different efforts to have people writing to people that are like on another level of isolation and danger, to be honest, than us. So I'm also interested if anybody knows about other opportunities to write to people that are incarcerated. I'd love to learn and then share.
To kind of go back, we have just a little bit more time left on for our program tonight. So I kind of wanted to go all the way back to where we started, of what's helping us get through. One thing that has really helped me get through is, with some of my colleagues that I do calls with, or friends, is kind of making a commitment and then having accountability on just one thing that you want to do for yourself. So like one of mine 1 week was complete my taxes. But it was like one of those things that like I know I could do, but it's really hard to get myself to do. So committing to someone and then doing that kind of also built up my motivation and like my sense of, I can still do things, which in this time right now, it feels like everything can often feel for me like kind of a blur and kind of bleeds into each other. So kind of marking like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. I did it. Like, and then after enough of those, you have things that you've done. But so I guess I'm thinking about what we commit to. And maybe I'll give you all a chance to think for just a moment, and the folks who are listening, that kind of in this next week, if there's anything that you want to commit to for yourself around like, I want to do this, not necessarily to be productive, but just I want to do this for myself. I would feel good about myself if I wore pants one day. or took a walk to the end of the block and back, or for me, I know one that I have this week is to try something new for fun. Like, it sounds pretty basic and pretty easy, but I actually had that goal one week and I didn't do it. So I kind of revamped that goal for myself. Of what's something, there's everything online, especially now. So I could try something new. So that's one goal that I have for myself. So as we're talking, yeah.
I kind of inspired by what Nola said earlier about sometimes needing to limit their consumption of Instagram. I've tried to do this and failed, but maybe I can try to turn my phone off for one day. But like text my mom, but like text my mom first and be like, impressive. I'm alive. Yeah. Like, don't have a heart attack. Like, I'm okay. I'm just gonna turn my phone off. But I think I need that, and I'm gonna try.
Do you have an idea of which day you're gonna do it? Like, you do it during the week, you do it during the weekend?
I guess it should be during the weekend so I can do my job and at least, maybe go ride my bike or something where I don't have to be in front of a screen.
Wonderful. Cheryl or Nola, do you have something in mind that in the next week that you'd want to do for yourself?
Not specific. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I have made one day a week a self-care week. I actually learned how to thread during this quarantine season, which is fun. It's not perfect. I'm nowhere near as good as certain threading ladies, and I still go back in with my tweezers. But every Wednesday I make it a point to, I really need to do this more, and I would like to do this more, is put on my favorite Korean face mask and journal and listen to water sounds on Spotify. I don't know why it's so relaxing to me. And they'll have like the fake birds chirping too, but it's just, it feels really nice. And so I would like just to dedicate or like revamp my self-care beauty time every Wednesday evening and do something new, like maybe paint my nails. I think would be kind of fun. I don't know.
Wow, you have a lot of ideas. Yeah, Cheryl, do you have, is there anything that you want to do for yourself this next week?
Not really. I still feel like I'm trying to get in the flow of being retired. The one thing I've been doing is in the evening, I'll take my workout journal, which used to be solely for just tracking my workouts, but I make a list of everything I want to do the next day. And it could be as simple as, I want to pay my cell bill. I want to pay my, this other bill. But I have just a little list, and it could be the smallest of tasks. And then the next day, I actually have a list of things to remind me what to do, because otherwise, sometimes I'll just forget. Or there's this one friend that I've been meaning to get a hold of for days, and I just keep forgetting. So I finally wrote it down in my calendar, and then yesterday I texted her. So that's really been helping me. I haven't done anything as far as self-care other than workouts. So
That's a
trying to
big
get in the
thing.
flow.
That's pretty good. So I'm gonna invite the maybe as a way to wrap up this section, and before we invite Joy and Courtlyn and Reine back, that maybe invite you all and anyone who's you all who are listening and watching at home, just take a moment to check in with yourself and see what stood out as, I think I can do that, or if anything resonated with you in a positive way, to see if there's any places inside right now that feel good, or at least not so bad. So just to take a moment to check out what's going right now, if there's anything that feels good in my body, anything I can take away from this call. And anything that doesn't fit that, you can just let it wash away. You can let that go, and just keep the parts that feel helpful to you and feel inspiring. So thank you all, and I believe Joy may have something to wrap us up with.
Thank you so much again for doing that. I usually would ask everyone to do a round of applause, but I guess we can't, so give yourselves a clap. Really appreciate you all taking the time to kind of share your experiences with us. I know that I found this really helpful. I think I struggle with scheduling, so like one thing that was really helpful for me was hearing you talk about kind of being compassionate with that and giving yourself little tasks or little manageable things. So yeah, I think that this was really great. We have been recording, so we'll hopefully be able to get that up online, but in the meantime, I'm going to be gathering all the resources that we shared today and that folks were sharing, and send them out to the email that you registered with. So definitely keep an eye on your inbox there. And as mentioned, we have some upcoming programs, so you can tune in tomorrow for Contested Histories program, or next week if you want to do some of that letter writing mentioned. We have our Tea and Letters program, where we'll be looking to write letters both to elders in the community, Little Tokyo community, as well as folks who are currently incarcerated. So kind of building on this. And we're going to keep trying to do wellness programming with JANM, and with Changing Tides has some initiatives, and us together as well. So definitely keep an eye out, check out our website, and we really appreciate your support in this time. Changing Tides, do you all want to add anything on?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the panelists for sharing so much insightful information. I think it was incredibly validating for me to hear everyone kind of talk and share their experiences. And thank you to the attendees too for listening in and sharing questions or ideas. If you have any more resources, like Joy mentioned in the chat, feel free to send them to us. And I mean, the more resources we can share, the better. So thank you all.
Great. With that, thank you, Matt, for moderating. Thank you, Lupe and Nola and Cheryl, for being a part of this. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Awesome.
Drink water.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.